The night on the alien world was calm, yet the air carried a strange tension. Above the forest, two moons shone brightly, their silver light spilling over tall black trees and mist that rolled across the ground. The human soldier walked carefully along the patrol path, boots crunching against the dirt, rifle hanging at his side. He was new here, sent to this far-off outpost where the silence was heavy and the darkness always seemed alive. Rumors spread among the soldiers about a deadly alien warrior. Some said she was taller than any man, her armor glowing with strange red lights. Others whispered that she could move without sound and kill before a man could even raise his weapon. He did not believe all the stories, but tonight, alone in the shadows, he felt his heartbeat quicken. Every sound in the forest made him stop. The rustle of leaves, the breaking of a twig, the distant call of an unknown creature. The human tightened his grip on his weapon, scanning the dark. The mist thickened, curling around his legs, hiding the ground below. His flashlight flickered, then died, leaving him with only the pale glow of the twin moons. Suddenly, he felt it. A presence. His instinct screamed that someone was watching. He turned slowly, his eyes darting across the trees, and then he saw her, a tall figure, standing just beyond the mist, her form outlined by moonlight. Armor clung to her body, sleek yet heavy, glowing faintly with strange alien markings. Her face was partly hidden by a mask, but her glowing eyes pierced through the shadows like fire. The human froze, unable to move. She was real, the alien warrior of the stories, standing right before him. Her weapon was already raised, aimed straight at his chest. He could feel the sharp edge of death in the air. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The forest held its breath, silent except for the sound of his heart pounding in his chest. His mind raced. Should he shoot? Should he run? Or would that only end faster in death? Her eyes burned with fierce light, her stance steady, her hand firm on the weapon. Then, without thinking, the words escaped his mouth. "You're cute." The sound of his own voice shocked him. Why would he say that, here, now, with death staring at him? But the word was already spoken, echoing in the mist. The alien warrior's body stiffened. Her glowing eyes widened in disbelief. Her weapon lowered just a fraction, as if her mind was caught off guard. And then, something happened that he never expected. Her face turned red, glowing beneath the pale moonlight. The fierce alien warrior, feared across the outpost, was blushing. The color spread across her cheeks, bright and unmistakable. She looked away for a moment, as if ashamed, as if fighting something she could not control. The human stood frozen, stunned by the sight. He had faced danger, but never something so strange, so confusing, so human-like. For a second, the world felt unreal. The mist swirled around them, the forest silent, the moons above shining like watchful eyes. The human lowered his rifle slowly, unsure if this was safety or a deeper trap. The alien warrior's eyes flicked back to him, filled with both anger and something softer, something unspoken. She gave a sharp sound, half warning, half embarrassment, and then stepped back into the shadows. In a heartbeat, she was gone, swallowed by the mist and the trees. The human stood alone again, chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. He tried to understand what just happened, but his mind could not. The stories said she was deadly, merciless, untouchable. But tonight, he had seen something else, something that would not let him sleep. The image of an alien warrior, her face burning red from one simple word. The human could not sleep that night. Even as the outpost around him stayed quiet, his mind kept replaying the moment in the forest. The alien warrior's glowing eyes, the weapon aimed at his chest, and then the impossible sight of her face burning red. He turned on his bed, restless, confused, and strangely curious. She was supposed to be a monster, a ruthless fighter, a ghost in the trees that every soldier feared. Yet for a heartbeat, she had looked almost fragile, almost human. The blush was not just a color on her face, It was a secret revealed. Something. She did not want anyone to see, and he had been the one to cause it, with a single word. The next day, the soldier carried on with his duties, but everything felt different. The patrols, the meals, the chatter of other soldiers, it all blurred into background noise. He could not stop thinking about her. He found himself staring at the forest every chance he got, wondering if she was out there, watching again. His heart would race each time he felt the air shift, each time shadows moved between the trees. By nightfall, he returned to the same patrol route. The mist had come back, curling across the ground like ghostly fingers. The forest was quiet, too quiet, as if holding its breath for what might happen next. And then he felt it again. That strange presence. The same heavy silence, the same burning awareness that eyes were on him. He turned slowly, and there she was, standing among the trees, armor glowing faintly under the moons. Her weapon was in her hand, but it was lowered this time. Her glowing eyes locked on him, sharp and cautious. The human's chest tightened. Half in fear, half in anticipation, he forced a small smile, even though his hands trembled. "I knew you'd come back," he whispered into the mist. Her head tilted, a small flicker of confusion crossing her face. For a moment, the silence stretched between them, heavy with tension. Then he saw it again, just the faintest hint of red brushing across her cheeks. Even in the cold light of the moons, the blush was clear. The human's heart pounded. It was not just a reaction, it was a secret weakness. Something her kind might see as shameful, something hidden beneath the mask of a warrior. Yet he had uncovered it by accident. Her body shifted, as if she wanted to vanish back into the forest, but something kept her there. Her eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in hesitation. He took a slow step forward, careful not to raise his weapon, careful not to threaten. "I don't want to fight," he said softly. I want to understand." The alien warrior's gaze hardened, her grip on the weapon tightening, but the blush refused to fade. It glowed brighter, spreading across her cheeks, betraying the calm mask she tried to hold. The human realized then that she was not just a soldier, not just a story. She was someone carrying a burden, someone hiding feelings she could never show to her own people. And for reasons he did not understand, she had allowed him to see it. His words had reached her in a way that bullets and blades never could. A sharp sound broke from her throat, a language he did not know. She shook her head quickly, as if warning him not to come closer, but her steps did not move away. She lingered, caught between pride and something she did not want to admit. The human stayed still, his eyes never leaving hers. The forest around them seemed to vanish, the mist swirling as if it belonged to their secret. Finally, she turned, her armor gleaming as she slipped back into the darkness. But this time, she did not vanish like a ghost. She paused once, glancing over her shoulder, the blush still glowing like fire under the moons. And then she was gone, leaving the human breathless. He knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. The human's life at the outpost began to feel like two different worlds. By day, he followed orders, marched with the other soldiers, and pretended nothing was unusual. By night, his thoughts drifted back to the forest, to the glowing eyes and the blush that haunted his memory. No one else knew, no one else could ever believe him, but he knew she would return. Every sound outside the camp walls became a signal. Every shadow under the trees made him wonder if it was her. The soldiers told stories of alien ambushes, of warriors who vanished like smoke after killing their prey. But when he thought of her, he remembered the hesitation in her eyes, the blush that betrayed her. It was not only fear he felt now, it was curiosity, sharp and dangerous, night after night. He returned to the misty patrol route. Sometimes she appeared, sometimes she did not. But even when she stayed hidden, He could feel her presence. The air would shift, the silence would grow heavy, and he knew she was near. She was watching him just as closely as he searched for her. One night, when the moons were full and the forest glowed silver, he decided to test his theory. He stopped in the clearing, laid his weapon carefully on the ground, and raised his empty hands. "I know you're there," he whispered, his voice steady. "I don't want to fight." The trees stayed silent, but the mist curled strangely, like a breath moving through it. And then she stepped out. Her armor gleamed, her tall figure framed by moonlight. Her weapon was still in her hand, but not raised. Her glowing eyes narrowed with suspicion as she studied him. The human stood still, heart hammering, waiting for any sign of what she might do. When her gaze dropped to his weapon on the ground, something flickered in her expression. Surprise, maybe even respect. "Why do you keep following me?" Her voice was rough, accented, but clear enough for him to understand. It was the first time he had heard her speak his language. The sound carried weight, power, and warning. But beneath it, he thought he heard uncertainty. He swallowed, then answered honestly, "Because I can't stop thinking about you." Her eyes widened, the faint glow of red already creeping into her cheeks. She turned her head sharply, as if to hide it, but it was too late. The blush betrayed her again, burning brighter than say. The armor she wore, for a warrior raised to show no weakness, this was more dangerous than any weapon. "You are reckless," she said, voice tight with anger, though her eyes betrayed her heart. "You should fear me." "I do," he admitted, "but I still want to see you." The words hung in the air, fragile and powerful. The alien warrior. Shifted on her feet, torn between pride and something deeper. She could have vanished back into the forest, but she stayed, her glowing blush refusing to fade. The human took a small step closer, careful and slow. "You're not just a soldier. To me," he whispered, "you're real." Her weapon twitched in her hand, but she did not raise it. Instead, she stared at him with wide eyes, her face burning red in the moonlight. For a moment, she looked less like a warrior and more like someone carrying a secret too heavy to bear. The silence between them grew thick, filled with everything unspoken. Then, with a sharp sound, she turned away and melted back into the shadows. The human let out a shaky breath, his chest tight with both fear and longing. He knew now that this was no simple chance encounter. This was a dangerous curiosity, one that could cost him his life, and yet he felt drawn deeper into the mystery of the alien warrior who blushed when called cute. The human knew he was crossing a line. Each time he left his weapon behind, each time he stepped into the misty forest, he broke the silent rules of war. But curiosity had become something stronger, something that pulled him toward the place where danger and wonder met. And each night, the same glowing eyes returned to him. At first, their meetings were short. She would appear for only a few breaths before fading back into the trees. But as the nights passed, the pauses grew longer, the distance between them smaller. Neither spoke much, yet the silence carried meaning. The forest became their secret place, a hidden world where two enemies dared to look at each other without hate. The human learned her language little by little, not from books or orders, but from the sharp sounds she made when frustrated and the softer tones when she slipped. He repeated words clumsily, and though her face burned red, she corrected him. Her voice was rough, but the way she slowed her words for him betrayed something gentle. Each mistake made her cheeks glow brighter, and he found himself smiling. It was dangerous, but it felt alive. She told him little of her people, only fragments. Carried in whispers, her tribe believed warriors must never show weakness, never laugh, never blush. To them, emotions were chains that tied a fighter down. But when he looked at her, he saw more than a mask of armor. He saw the way her hands trembled when she hid her face, the way her eyes softened when she thought. He was not watching, and each time he called her cute, the red glow returned, brighter and impossible to hide. One night, she arrived without her mask. The moons lit her face, strong and sharp, yet strangely vulnerable. Her glowing eyes flickered nervously, as if she regretted showing him. But he did not laugh. He did not mock. He only whispered, "Beautiful." And the words struck her harder than any blade. Her blush flooded her cheeks, so vivid it painted the mist around her in a red glow. She turned her head sharply, trying to bury her shame. Yet she did not leave. For the first time, she let him see her without walls. The human began to share pieces of his own life. He told her of the stars from his world, the taste of rain on metal rooftops, the music his people played at night. She listened in silence, her eyes unblinking, as if each word was a secret treasure. Sometimes her lips twitched, almost a smile, though her people had taught her never to show it, and when the laughter finally escaped him, she flinched, as though the sound itself was forbidden. Yet the faintest curve touched her lips, and again her cheeks glowed red, but their secret meetings were not without risk. The soldiers at the outpost began whispering about strange tracks near the patrol lines. Her tribe had grown restless too, their warriors circling closer, searching for whoever dared to wander so near. Every night they met, the danger thickened. Like the mist around them, every word they exchanged was a step closer to discovery, and discovery meant death. Still, neither of them could stop. The forest, once feared, had become a place of forbidden warmth. Two enemies, tied by war, kept breaking the rules just to see each other. It was reckless, it was foolish, but it was real. And in her blush, the human saw more than danger. He saw hope. Hope that maybe, in a galaxy full of battles, there was still a place where a warrior's heart could be touched by a single word. The outpost had changed. Soldiers walked with sharper eyes, scanning the forest more often, whispering about strange movements in the night. Tracks had been found near the walls, claw marks on the trees, footprints too large to belong to any human. The commanders warned of a possible attack, but the human soldier's heart knew the truth. It was her, always her, and each step she took closer to his world was a risk neither of them could ignore. He tried to act normal, to eat with the others, to laugh at their empty jokes, but his thoughts always betrayed him. Every moment of silence reminded him of the forest, of her glowing eyes, her hidden smile, her blush. He had sworn an oath to obey, to fight if war came. But how could he raise his weapon against someone who made his heart beat this way? The bond between them had already crossed the line, and there was no going back. On the other side of the trees, the alien warrior faced her own storm, her tribe, had noticed her absence, her late returns from patrols, her distracted eyes. Whispers followed her steps, questions cut at her silence. She was a warrior, trained since childhood to be unshakable, to bury all weakness. But every time she tried to erase his face from her mind, the memory of his words returned. "You're cute," he had said, and the fire of that moment refused to die. The nights grew heavier, their secret meetings sharper with danger. They spoke in broken words, half in his language, half in hers. Yet they understood more than words could carry. He told her that her blush made her stronger. Not weaker, because it proved she was alive. She argued that weakness meant death. Yet her cheeks betrayed her, glowing red in the silver light. And each time, instead of retreating, she lingered longer, closer, until one night, when his hand brushed hers in the mist, and neither pulled away. The touch was brief, almost nothing, yet it felt louder than thunder. Her breath caught, her weapon lowered, and the red on her cheeks burned brighter than the moons above. He could feel her trembling, not from fear of him, but from the weight of what they had done. One step had turned into something forbidden, something their worlds would never allow. Rumors inside the outpost thickened. One soldier swore he saw the human slip into the trees when he should have been resting. Another claimed they heard voices in the forest, soft but not human. The commanders tightened patrols, warning that spies might be near. The human knew his time was running out, yet still he could not stop. She too felt the noose tightening. Her tribe's leaders questioned her loyalty, sending her on harsher missions, testing her resolve. But her mind was elsewhere, her heart still trapped in the clearing with him. She hated herself for blushing, hated that her people would see it as weakness. Yet when she stood before him, all she wanted was for him to speak again, to call her what no one else ever dared. That night, as they met beneath the two moons, the danger pressed down harder than ever. The human whispered, "I don't care if it's forbidden," his voice breaking with honesty. "You're not my enemy anymore." Her glowing eyes widened, her breath sharp, and the blush returned, fierce and unstoppable. She shook her head, torn between honor and heart, but when his hand reached hers again, she did not let go. In that moment, the forbidden bond was sealed, not with words, not with promises, but with the fire of a warrior's blush and the courage of a human's defiance. The universe might not forgive them, their people might destroy them, but the forest knew their secret now, and it would not stay hidden forever. The days of silence ended when the first warning sirens howled across the outpost. The human soldier rushed outside with the others, the red lights flashing against metal walls, the sound of boots echoing as orders shouted through the air. Scouts had seen alien warriors gathering in the forest, moving in formation, their weapons glowing like fireflies in the dark. The commanders declared it plain. The war was no longer rumor. It was coming. Inside the camp, fear sharpened every face. Soldiers cleaned their rifles with shaking hands. Engines roared as machines of war were prepared. The human tried to blend in, tried to look like the others, but his chest was heavy. Because he knew who would be among the alien warriors. She would be there, armor gleaming, eyes glowing, standing on the opposite side of the battlefield. That night, when the camp was silent, he slipped into the misty forest again. Every step felt heavier than before, his body torn between duty and desire. He reached the clearing, and she was already there, waiting. Her stance was stiff, her weapon at her side, her glowing eyes filled with something darker than before. "War is coming," she said, her voice like a blade cutting through the mist. "My people march at dawn." The human's stomach tightened, his heart pounding like a drum. "My commander gave the same order," he whispered. She turned her face away, as if the weight of the truth was too much to bear. "You will stand against me," she said, her words bitter, her cheeks trembling as the faint red blush betrayed her again. "I cannot stop what is already moving." He stepped closer, desperation in his voice. "Then let me stop it with you." Her eyes snapped back to his, filled with shock, anger, and fear all at once. "You would betray your kind?" she asked, her voice breaking with disbelief. "I would betray death," he answered quickly. "I would betray a war that will burn us both." The silence after his words stretched long, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant cries of night creatures. Her hand shook on her weapon, her glowing eyes narrowing, torn between her honor and her heart. "You do not understand," she whispered. "If my people see my weakness, they will kill me first." He looked at her, his voice steady. "Then let me be your weakness." Her face flushed bright red, glowing stronger than ever. She turned away, her body trembling with a storm of emotions she had spent a lifetime hiding. He wanted to reach for her, but the air between them was thick with fear. Both of them knew what the dawn would bring: blood, fire, and a battlefield where they might face each other with no choice. She finally spoke again, her voice low and filled with sorrow. "Tomorrow, I will not be the one you knew." Her words cut deeper than any weapon. Before he could answer, she melted back into the mist, leaving him alone with the echo of her voice. Back in the camp, the soldier sat in silence, his weapon across his knees. The commanders spoke of glory, of victory, of ending the alien threat once and for all. but his mind replayed only her eyes, her trembling voice, her blush glowing against the cold night. He knew dawn would not only bring war, it would bring a choice between his people and his heart, between loyalty and love. Between war and her, dawn came with fire in the eye. Sky? The twin moons sank low as the first light touched the mist, and the forest shook with the march of armies. From one side, human soldiers moved forward, rifles raised, armored machines roaring behind them. From the other, alien warriors emerged. Tall and fierce, their weapons glowing with deadly light. The ground trembled beneath their steps, the air thick with the promise of blood. The human soldier walked among his squad, his rifle heavy in his hands, but his eyes were not on the battlefield. His heart searched the mist, desperate to see her. Every tree, every shadow pulled at his gaze until finally, there she was, standing tall among her people, her armor blazing with alien markings, her glowing eyes fixed on him. She looked like a true warrior now, but he could still see it, the faint blush burning beneath her mask of pride. The commanders shouted orders. The first shots rang through the air. Fire lit the forest. Blades clashed. Screams rose from both sides. The human squad charged forward, but his steps slowed, his eyes locked on her. She too broke from her line, her weapon raised, her people watching. The two met in the clearing where they had first spoken. Surrounded by chaos, their breaths harsh, their hands trembling. For a moment, they stood as enemies. Her weapon pointed at his chest, his rifle aimed at her heart. Around them, war thundered. But in that space, the world fell silent. His voice cut through the noise, raw and desperate. "You don't have to fight me." Her glowing eyes narrowed, torn between duty and something deeper. "I was born for this," she whispered, her voice shaking. "My people will see me as weak if I stop." "Then let them," he answered, his voice breaking. "Let them see the truth, that you're more than just a warrior." Her cheeks flamed red, the blush glowing even through the smoke and fire. Her hands shook, the weapon trembling, and then, slowly, she lowered it. Gasps echoed from her side, alien warriors staring in disbelief. The human lowered his rifle, too, stepping closer, his heart racing. "They fear weakness, but I don't," he said, his voice steady now. "I see strength in you, the kind no weapon can break." Her people shouted. Her commander roared for her to strike, but she stood, frozen, her blush glowing brighter than the flames. For the first time in her life, she defied them. "I will not fight," she declared, her voice loud and clear, carrying across the battlefield. The human stepped beside her, his weapon cast aside, his presence a shield against both armies. The battlefield stilled, the clash of blades fading, the guns falling. Silent. Both sides stared in shock, unable to move. A human and an alien warrior, standing together when they should have been enemies. Her blush burned bright, not as shame, but as a symbol of choice. The choice to follow her heart instead of the rules that chained her. The commanders shouted for war to continue, but their voices felt distant now. The human and the alien warrior stood shoulder to shoulder, eyes locked on each other. The forest around them seemed to breathe again. The mist curling as if guarding their secret. They did not know what the future would bring, peace, rebellion, or more blood, but they knew one thing for certain. In that moment, against the weight of two worlds, they had chosen each other, and as the sun rose fully over the battlefield, the blush of an alien warrior shone brighter than any weapon, a flame that no war could ever extinguish.